Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Multipurpose with Lakshit. I'm just grateful to each one of you for giving so much love to all the episodes before. And yes, I'm back with Roshan today. So yes, thank you very much for being here, Roshan. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you again. So yes, before starting, that would be great if you can just tell about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I am Roshan Nausad, and I'm 21 years old, and I was born in Delhi, India, and then I was adopted to an Australian family. So I have now lived in Melbourne, Australia for about 15, 16 years now. And yeah, so I literally have grown up here. Went to school here, and I think it's been a good life here as well. Like I've had many opportunities and obviously a lot of privileges living here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had in India. So I'm very lucky.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then what kind of yes, wonderful, wonderful. And how has your life been different? Like, what are the things and changes you see, and what are kind of problems and all the kind of situations that aroses in your life?
With living in Australia, like there, then with bounds and being an immigrant, from India, coming to Australia and living here with all the struggles, obviously, that, I've faced along the way, but I'm very happy and lucky that I've lived here and had the opportunities that I've had. When I went to school, I mean, it was hard for me to, grasp, fitting in and like being, obviously I was different. I as well. So I got bullied for being brown. I got bullied for being Indian, and but I never allowed that to stop me from being who I was, and I never allowed that to hinder my passion or my love for the country which I was born in. In fact, it made me feel more passionate and more love for who I am and where I come from. And I think in terms of bullying, like there is a lot of discrimination anywhere, no matter where you go. But my experience in Australia, there has been a lot of ignorant people that I've come across. But in terms of just everyday life, people are lovely. And like my friends that I've made here are really, really wonderful. I've been able to build strong connections with the South Asian community in Melbourne. So I'm really grateful for all those friends that I've got. And yeah, so living here has given me, I would say, a second chance at life, because I wouldn't have had those opportunities if I was still in India, poor slum child. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And your as you said, bullying was there and all those things. But to like, how did you accept yourself as accept your gender identity? How was that sexuality? How did you accept that, and how was the response of your family and friends and people who are very close to you? How was all those things happening?
Yeah. So having the experience of like coming out and everything, and was pretty easy for me. Like I never had to worry about like if my family would accept me or not. I think for me it was pretty easy, and I'm privileged about that. Like when I came out to my mum, I just said, "Oh, like I'm gay," and then she was like, "Oh my god, I already knew," because I was always very unapologetic and expressive about my sexuality and how I showed out. Who I was really. Like I would wear makeup really young, and I was very boisterous. I was very outgoing and quite effeminate. And like even when I was really, really young, I would prefer Barbie dolls over, toy trucks and all of that sort of stuff. So along the way, as a child developing and growing up, my family always could see there was something different with me. And so when I did come out, my family was just like, we already know and we accept it. And so I'm so lucky that for that instance that I've had that opportunity to be brought up in a family that accepted me for the way that I am in terms of my sexuality. And so, yeah, which I understand a lot of brown kids don't have. So I really respect my family for that. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And when coming to the LGBTQ community, everywhere in the world, people are struggling. The community is struggling, and to make their, to people to accept them in the society. So you being an individual, being already within, being an Indian, having a brown skin, then fighting already for racism, and then fighting for your sexual identity. How has been these two things for you?
Yeah, like definitely like being in Australia, like I was definitely a target for almost everything under the sun, I think, because I'm brown, I'm short, I'm petite, I'm feminine, I'm gay, um, I'm, you know, I'm just all those things that's, ignorant people can't stand. So I think like I was a target for a lot of those things. And I just never let it stop. It got to me and it upset me, and I definitely experienced, depression and anxieties from all the bullying that I would get. But I never, I allowed that to affect me, but then I try to move past it as quick as possible and not forgetting that what I've been through, but also being able to move on. And obviously, I want to let young people know that it's like, if you're struggling with something, especially when it comes to your sexuality or understanding your origins of where you come from, or your nationality or whatever, you have to know that you're not alone and that you can talk to people. There is no shame in talking to people that you can trust. Go to a teacher you trust, go to a parent that you trust, or a family member or best friend. There's no shame in that. And we have to be able to, especially in the South Asian community, there is the stigma of just talking. Like, there's nothing wrong with talking and being open about your feelings. And there's strength in that. And the more we talk about it, the less judgment and stigma there is around mental health as well. Like, we just have to be able to talk about what affects us and what hurts us. And if we're wanting to empower people in our community, we have to make it okay that if we're struggling, to lean on someone or allow them to lean on us when somebody's reaching out. So for me, I think everyone that I've met has been a guidance in some way of helping me cope with my sexuality, or coming to terms with accepting where I come from, and just overcoming my hurdles of self-insecurities. I mean, we all go through it. So don't ever feel like you're alone, and talk to people as much as you can that you trust, and don't feel ashamed that you're ever bothering anyone, because real friends will be there for you, and family, and who really care about you. And I think for me, I use this word a lot, but when you love someone unconditionally, that's it. Unconditionally means it's endless. You don't stop loving someone unconditionally when they come out that they're gay, or they come out that they love someone that's from a different caste, or come out and say they love someone from a different religion, or whatever. You love them regardless of what you think may be a flaw, and that's so important to teach our older generations and our brown parents and parents in general, that you have lived your life and you've made the choices that you've made. Now let me make those choices. And if they make me happy, you should be happy for me. So we have to make sure that our parents are aware of that. It's not your life anymore. It's our life. And you have to sometimes take your own choices into your own hands and let that be known. And don't feel ashamed of it. If you're not hurting anybody, you shouldn't feel ashamed and feel guilty for that.
Okay, okay. Yes, yes. And what, like, how does, uh, like, what were your problems? Uh, kind of, what kind of things did you go through when you accepted yourself? Your family was okay, but there were some friends who were not fine. Did you have some friends who were not happy with that? Or did you have some kind of problems? Like, what kind of things were going on when you accepted yourself, like, no, accepted your sexuality?
Yeah. I think definitely, like when you're younger, for me, it was, I thought that I had friends that fully accepted me and understood who I was. But I realized, and I don't want to put anyone down, but it really was a lot of my white friends who didn't really understand my background and didn't understand where I came from. And, I felt like I couldn't express my culture as much as I can now, having a close-knit group of brown friends, and the people that I have who are friends of mine who are white, who are obviously more educated, more rounded, and friends from all different backgrounds. I think for me in high school and primary school, and through that transitional period of, leaving high school, I had trouble like being able to express my cultural identity. And I found that was such a problem. And I felt like I had to hold myself back, because the people that I was mixing around with, I constantly had to feel like had to change myself or sort of suppress my expression. I I don't have to do that anymore. So I feel like if you have to feel like shrink your personality down or shrink yourself down to suit the people around you, those are not your real friends. You have to be around people that value you, but at the same time you have to value your friends the same way. So we shouldn't have to dim our light to suit somebody else's, and so they can see their own pathway. We have to shine everyone's light so we can better see the road that we're all going on, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I did struggle with having friendships with people that I thought that didn't fully understand me. And so I actually chose to leave those friendships because they weren't very healthy.
Okay, okay. And you said you are a makeup artist and photographer, yeah. And so, how did you get interested into being a makeup artist and a photographer?
I got interested in makeup and, particularly makeup because I have done 14 years of professional trained dancing. So I did tap dancing when I was 4, and then I did Mohiniyattam, and I did jazz, contemporary, like the smallest little bit of ballet, and then I did a lot of Broadway singing arts. So I loved it all, and it was so much fun because being on stage was my passion at that time. Being on stage, being a different character, singing and being extra was my thing, and it still is my thing. And through all that arts, I found a love for makeup because obviously when I did Mohiniyattam, I had to apply kajal and like the dramatic makeup, and I just fell in love with that whole process. And so when I was in high school, I actually got a scholarship into a TAFE course that provided makeup courses, and they obviously loved what I had shown, and so they're like, well, we'd love to have you on board. So that was really amazing, and I thank the careers teacher at my school at that time who helped me get that scholarship. So I was really, really happy about that. And so I got into that industry and I loved it. And so after that, I went into photography because I have loved photography as long as I've loved dance. And so I wanted to be trained in it and know more about it. So yeah, I'm just a very creative person.
Okay, okay. And this thing is like when people see you having a beard, having long hairs, what's their reaction? You telling them I'm gay, and like how they do they react? And even if you don't tell them that I'm a gay or whatever, uh, like I think the people would understand by you seeing beard and having long hairs, wearing, for sure they would understand that. But how's that reaction, and how if somebody tells and make fun of you, how would you react to them?
Yeah, so definitely like I look very different to most people in terms of just how I carry myself and how I present myself. I think for me, it's just like if people come up to me and they're genuinely interested in how I express myself and they're like, oh my God, I love your hair, or I love your makeup, or whatever. I think that's really fantastic. But at the same time, I have to sometimes, we all have to realize that, we're not the best. And I have to also explain to myself that it's like, you're not going to be liked by everybody. And so when people do come at me and they do judge me, or they do say something ridiculous, like, are you a boy? Are you a girl? Or why do you choose to do this? Or whatever. And it's like, I sort of do respond very quickly. And I do say like, well, you're ignorant. But at the same time, I have to realize that for a lot of people, they've probably never met somebody that looks like me. So you do have to take the time sometimes to maybe educate them and be like, well, everyone's different. How you choose to express yourself is your choice, and how I choose to express myself is my choice. And with my long hair and my beard, I think it's just a way for me to sort of understand my, I guess, masculine side and my feminine side. I sort of just have a conflict with it. So I have a beard because, it's sort of my safety blanket, I guess. I love having a beard, and I feel like that just makes me feel confident. But then at the same time, having long hair is like this feminine, beautiful, like super exotic, whatever, centric side of myself, which I also appreciate as well. So I think it's just a way for me to understand what I feel on the inside, and I just project it on the outside. So I do get judged, and I do get looks. And I do get annoyed sometimes, depending on like how people are looking or approaching me. But I do have to remember that it's like it may not be like a hateful stare. Like sometimes in this generation, we tend to just think everybody hates us if they don't praise us, and that's just not true. Like some people are just curious, and so I'm constantly training myself into thinking and making sure that my ego isn't out there, and I don't think that everyone has to like me. It's maybe they're just curious. So yeah.
And how does it affect your mental health?
Sorry, how does it affect what?
How does it affect your mental health? People telling you things, how that affects your mental health, and how are you mentally disturbs, what things goes on in your mind when things like come up like this?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I'm human, so like I do get upset. I do hurt, get hurt and everything, and it does affect me. Sometimes sometimes I allow it to ruin my day, and I shouldn't. And so I am, even though I'm a very extroverted and outgoing person, I am quite sensitive, and so I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about extroverted people. Like we do seem very extroverted and like nothing ever hurts us, but deep inside we are quite sensitive, and we don't truly show that side of ourselves all the time. So when people do say something, yeah, it hurts, and I have to just remind myself, like, it's just in the moment, like, don't let it ruin my day. And I have suffered depression and I have suffered anxiety, so a lot of that stuff is terrible. And like, I've spoken to professionals about it. I've spoken to people that I love and trust and who I know that will give me the best advice. And this is, again, going back to having an open line of communication with the people you care about that really respect and understand you, that there's nothing wrong with talking about how you're going mentally. You have to sometimes do a mental evaluation, sometimes either on yourself or just have someone to talk to, because it's important. Like we can't always deal with everything on our own. It's okay to get help, like, and whether that's professional or just seeking help from a friend, both of them, create such an amazing environment to better understand ourselves and better yet educate each other, the person and yourself, on how you can better go on with your life, because it's hard being one person and struggling with one thing on your own and feeling like you can't go to someone. So definitely talk to people.
Okay, okay. Yes, yes. Before ending this up, I would like to ask you, do you think I forgot to talk about something, or would you like to add something more? That would be that you can just do it.
No, I think you covered a lot of things. I would like to quickly just say though, like, I think it's amazing, that the brown community now is really amazing in terms of just young people are giving more opportunities for themselves and, going out of the traditional lines of, doing what their parents possibly would want them to do and all of this sort of stuff, and being a lot more creative. I truly believe that young brown people within India and outside of India are naturally gifted at creative things. And I think I wish more brown parents and the brown community would appreciate the arts a little bit more. And so I think I encourage young people maybe who are listening to this to just encourage your parents to just open their eyes a little bit more and understand that art is such a noble thing and it is so important. And it's a form of a communication, and it's a form of self-expression. And we don't just need engineers, doctors, and lawyers and scientists. We also need artists. We need creative people to function in the world. So make sure that you take the time to talk to your families and your loved ones about the importance of why you want to do what you do, and also let people know that the arts is nothing to be ashamed of, that we artists and creative people work just as hard, sometimes if not harder, to create art than people who do to just sit in an office for days on end and work with corporate businesses. So the arts are always misrepresented and disrespected, like anybody can just do it for free, but we work very hard. And so try and put more value in understanding into bringing more understanding to your families and your friends in our community, I think. But that's about it.
Yeah, yeah, yes. So yeah, thank you very much for being here. It was my pleasure having you. A wonderful session. So yes, thank you for that.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really grateful. Thank you.